Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk about decentralization in Ethiopia. Uh, as my colleague from Nigeria indicated, Ethiopia, like Nigeria, Ethiopia is also a federal country, and local government functions within a federal structure. As you can see in my slide, the federal structure is not indicated. There is at the center there is a federal government, and below the federal government there are what we call regions, which are often called states in other federal systems. Local government is within the competence under this federal dispensation. Local government is within the competence of the regions. Uh, in Ethiopia, there are two types of local government. The first is what I call ethnic local government. The entire federal structure is designed around managing ethnic diversity in Ethiopia. And as part of that process, local government is also designed to accommodate intra-state minority ethnic communities in every region. The other one is what I call regular local government. That one is meant to be a center or a site of service delivery and democratic participation. As you can see in the graph, the regular local government is Warada in rural area and cities in urban areas. Kabale is the last local administrative structure. It is not government as such. It is administrative structure which is subordinate to the Warada or the city. Now, decentralization in Ethiopia was introduced in two phases. As you know, until 1991, Ethiopia was a very centralized unitary state. It was in the 1990s after the former ruling party called Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, or EPRDF, assumed power. A process of decentralization began. The first phase of decentralization culminated with the introduction of federal system with the adoption of the 1995 constitution, which entrenched federalism in Ethiopia. As I mentioned earlier, the federal system is designed and revolves around managing ethnic diversity in the country. The second phase, decentralization, is the one which is meant to empower local government. This one started in 2000 when the federal government introduced what is called district level decentralization program. The program was introduced as part of the implementation of a poverty policy, a poverty reduction policy which the government adopted, and the government adopted that policy as part of the implementation of the Millennium Development Goal in the early 2000s, as I mentioned earlier. So it is as part of that poverty reduction policy implementation that decentralization was introduced, and decentralization was at the time considered as the best mechanism of achieving poverty reduction in Ethiopia. So from early 2000, a lot of institutional reform was introduced in the country, including the revision of state constitutions and state laws with an eye to devolving certain powers to local government, like waradas and cities, as I mentioned earlier. So the decentralization program was basically implemented at least for 10 years from 2000 until 2010 with the introduction of different policies, different laws, and different other institutional reforms. Now, it is important to mention here, despite the fact that Ethiopia is a federal government, a federal country, and local government is within the competence of the states, the entire decentralization program was pushed from the center, because the decentralization program was introduced within the context of a federal system which is dominated by a single party which controlled the center, the state, and local government. So the poverty reduction policy was adopted by the center, and the decentralization program was also introduced by the center. As part of the decentralization program, as I mentioned earlier, some powers are devolved to local government. Unconditional revenue transfer was introduced, in which the states were required to transfer over close to 50% of their budget to local government. And the ruling party being focused on achieving development in rural areas, partly because poverty was prevalent, still is prevalent in rural areas where 90% of the poor in Ethiopia are found. The decentralization program also focused on rural oredas, or rural local government. Urban local government started to get some attention only after 2005, when election was conducted and the ruling party lost a lot of votes in many urban areas. Then after, it decided to give some attention to local government. After 2010, nothing has been done in terms of decentralization. Actually, the entire political process in the country has been going from bad to worse. In 2010, the ruling party claimed to have won 99% of parliament. Then some kind of political discontent started in the country. This became open in 2015 when the ruling party claimed to have 100% of parliament and state councils. From 2015 until 2018, the country was rocked with a lot of public protest, which led to political division within the ruling party and the rise of the current Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to power. The first 1 year of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was very promising. A lot of reforms were introduced, and there was a promise that the country will be transformed into a democratic country. But again, between those who lost power after the protest and those who came to power, the political division expanded to the extent now we are in some kind of civil war between one of the regions, Tigray, and the federal government. The war is covering at least 3 regions, at least 4 regions actually: Tigray, Amhara, Afar, and Oromia. So this is the situation where we are in. As far as local government and decentralization is concerned, it has been abandoned basically. Local election has not been held since 2013. The elections are postponed indefinitely and nobody is talking about them. Parliamentary election was postponed once, and it basically became the cause for the war that we are witnessing now. But the postponement of local government election for about 2 terms now is not raising any eyebrows in the country. Just a final remark, if Ethiopia is to get out of this political mess, I would say any political reform introduced in this country has to also include local government. In the past, local government has been, relegated to the political margin, but I would say any constitutional reform, I hope and expect there would be one at the end of this war, regardless of how the war is going to end. It has to include democratization and empowerment of local government. Otherwise, it's likely that we'll be back to some other political crisis, even if we are done with this one. Let me stop here, and I will be glad to answer any questions that may be raised later. Thanks.